What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Walkout Podcast,
where we cover fights, news, and more. So, last episode, we previewed the UFC 316 card. And what did you think of the card?
Overall, I would say it was a decent card. I would have to say some entertaining fights, some not so much. But overall, good card. 2 championship fights, which is always great, and 2 submissions as well in those 2. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I thought the same. I thought it was a great card. A good mix of fights, different both submissions and decisions.
Yeah.
So,
but I think what we're all here for really has to be the main event.
Yeah, the main event
between Merab and Sean O'Malley. And what can we say? Dominant. I think has to be the first word that comes to mind.
Yeah, surprising, I would say. I did not think that he would... Merab, I thought both fighters actually had a better fight than last time. I thought that Merab at least technically, or O'Malley at least technically, leveled up.
Yeah.
But I just think that Merab got even better, even faster somehow. So,
speaking for myself, I did not expect that. I mean, usually activity in that way, like Merab fighting once this year already, and now we're in June and his defended the belt again. I mean, that usually doesn't favor a fighter. It adds a bit of fatigue in most fights, and I mean, if you look at it in this one, if anything, I think O'Malley would look the one who was more fatigued. Yeah. So, like I said, just dominant from Merab, getting the submission. It's funny actually, in our preview, I think you predicted a Merab points decision.
Yeah, so I did not think he would get the submission. I thought he would win on a decision. I thought it would be sort of similar, but basically that it would be even closer. But still a 5-round, hard decision.
Yeah, I don't think many people saw this one coming, to be honest. And I predicted Sean O'Malley by finish, and you predicted Merab by points, so we didn't really get anything correct there. If you combine them, maybe a bit. But I mean, what a statement, right? We talked about this before the fight. If anyone got a finish, this will be a wow moment. And what we have to say is, like you said, Sean O'Malley looked better, right?
Yeah, I actually think he was building something during this fight almost. I think that the fact that Merab got the submission was actually just like good for him. It actually served him very well. I actually think that if this fight would have gone 5 rounds, I think it could have beaten. Because if you looked at like the first round, they were exchanging a lot. It was very close from what I remember, at least the first round. Yeah. But I still scored it for Merab in the end because he got the takedown in the end and a lot of like ground control and punches in then. And then in the second round, same thing again. They both traded. Merab showed some really good like combinations, some good striking, but Sean O'Malley answered with also some really good, really crisp striking, just good like punches and kicks, specifically like kicks. But then, and he most of all, I think that O'Malley just defended Merab's takedowns again and again and again, and Merab just kept like shooting for them. It was almost a bit reminiscent of the like Merab versus Petr Yan fight. Yeah, sort of, in that he began with shooting a lot of takedowns. Jan defended a lot of them, or all of them, and then eventually he just tired out. He just couldn't keep up with it, and he just got brought down. And I think that's sort of what happened eventually in this fight. And I think you almost saw that because O'Malley, he came into the fight with a lot of confidence, a lot of focus. He changed the song a little bit. He changed like his hair. Yeah. He was really focused when he came into the fight. And the first round, it was so close. It felt like such a high level, like mentally, in terms of both fighters. And I just think that when O'Malley did get brought down, when he got carried up in the air, like Merab does his finishes, whacked him down on the floor, I think that sort of hurt his confidence.
Probably. Well? Yeah.
Because from there on, the third round, they were. It was almost like O'Malley was a bit rattled, almost like he was throwing a lot of really good like punches, but he got too close. They got too close to each other. Yeah. So Merab just shot for another takedown, and
I mean, he didn't really get a reaction, right?
No.
From his hits that he actually had on Merab. I mean, in the last fight, the first one, I mean, he got in round 5 the kick that we'll remember when we saw the reaction from her, and we saw that he was hurt, and he admitted that afterwards. But in this one, like you said, I think Merab just broke him. I mean, like I said, Sean O'Malley came in better than ever. I truly believe that before this fight.
Yeah.
And like you said, so focused, so ready. And
Such a close first round. Both feeling each other out.
Yeah.
It wasn't at all dominant, I think.
No, and at that point, I was even more confident in my prediction that I think, okay, Sean O'Malley has got him, he's finding out the range, and in about round 3 or 4, he's going to pick out the shots and finish this.
And I was actually thinking that as well. Like, that was actually my thinking live during when I was like scoring the round. I was thinking, okay, this one probably goes to Merab based on just the takedown at the end. But still, I think that Sean was building something for later rounds. Maybe a late knockout, round 4, round 5. But Merab just did what Merab does. He just
exactly.
Like he just I don't know.
He grinds down everyone, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And I mean, this is the interesting thing, but because I'm sure everyone listening to this has the same conviction that we have, that watching this live at least, that Sean O'Malley would look to get a finish, and if Merab was to win, maybe it was by a tight points decision. But even though we thought this, and Merab does this to everyone, we're still surprised. And I mean, why? Merab has done it to Aldo, he done it to Peter Yan, he did it to Henry Cejudo, Umar, Merab O'Malley the first time, and now we're sitting here like, we shouldn't be surprised, really, should we? Yeah. Maybe by the submission, but not by the fact that you can't outwork him.
Yeah, like he just breaks everyone.
Yeah,
it's like it's on his portfolio or something. Like the amount of fighters, the names he has there that he has just broken down eventually, like throughout the fights. It's incredible. Like.
Yeah, and building on that, what you just mentioned there is like, where is Merab now in their overall conversation?
Yeah,
would you say
conversation?
Would you say he's the GOAT of the bantamweight division?
I think so, and not really just based on how he performs during his fights. It's just the names themselves. Like, I just think that he has taken down so many like top names. Like O'Malley, some people might watch this fight, they might feel like, oh well, it's just like O'Malley or something just because O'Malley lost the first fight. But O'Malley is an excellent fighter, actually. I think that I think that from now on he's gonna be underrated for a while, probably. He's gonna get like some sort of contenders match against, do you think maybe
Figueiredo or someone like that?
And I think he finishes someone like that, or at least I think he easily wins something like that. So I think that he's gonna be back in the conversation if he doesn't maybe step up to the next level. So I just think that every single fight for Merab, at least this past like 6 fights, they have all been really high level. They have all been similar type of performances. Like, there's not a bad performance in there really that I can remember, sort of. So, and
no really shaky moments either. I mean, some people would argue the last fight with O'Malley in round 5, like I mentioned.
Round 5, but
but also he had like a minute left.
5 rounds. He knew he was gonna win on the points decision. So
and it's only been finished like once or twice before, I think, and that was several years ago.
Yeah.
So I don't really think that's gonna be playing on his mind, Merab's that is.
He has a 13 win streak, right? 13 fight win streak. That is insane.
And like you mentioned, at least 5 or 6 of those names are like the top 5 in the division right now.
Legends also.
Yeah, exactly. Some of them even pound for pound ever, right? Like Cejudo and Aldo. And so I think this, and like you mentioned there, this win is gonna age really well because, like you said before, we saw a better version of Sean O'Malley, I think, than we've ever seen. And some people wouldn't agree with that because he lost. But he, like you said, he looked crisp. Yeah. He looked really good.
Look at the last fight and look at this fight, and you see that O'Malley is a great fighter. It's such a hard matchup.
Yeah.
Merab is such a hard matchup for everyone.
Exactly.
In this division, it's impossible to beat him in the bantamweight division. But I don't think he can do it in lightweight or featherweight or any other division. Like
that's a totally different ball game, right? But like you said, I think that's the next thing we have to talk about. With Sean, it's pretty sure he's going to fight another contender. I would say not probably Umar or someone like the top contender. More like maybe a Figueiredo.
Yeah.
A fight that the UFC knows that he's going to be the favorite in, so he can build his name up a bit again and do a little bit of a rebuild in a couple of fights. But the interesting thing is who's out there for Merab. I know Dana White wanted the Umar rematch, but also admitted in the post-fight interview that Sandhagen is going to be next.
Should be next.
And I know that styles makes fights and it's all different, but I mean, Umar beat Sandhagen comfortably.
Yeah.
And Merab beat Umar quite convincingly. So I mean, I know that the style can make a different matchup, but really, are we excited for the Sandhagen matchup or?
No, not really. But it's also like as you said, like style. Some people say style makes fights, but also like fighters make fights. And I think that Sandhagen is not the level of fighter that Merab is, regardless of the style. Like
No.
Like I just don't think. I think that Sandhagen for what he is a great fighter. He was even better before, but I just don't think that this Sandhagen versus this Merab that we saw. I don't think that, like, regardless of, let's say, Sandhagen, he has good takedown defense. He's better on the ground probably than O'Malley.
Probably.
So it's a better matchup in that way. He isn't like, maybe doesn't have the knockout power, but
Yeah, but it's a good striker and an intelligent movement. But like I said, if this was a couple of years ago, it would be totally different of when Merab's on his way up and Sandhagen is like the number 1 or 2 ranked contender. But now, I mean, it would be such a big shock. I mean, Merab's going to be a huge favorite going to that one. And are we even excited to see
minus 300, 400 probably?
Yeah, probably, at least.
I think so.
So the only thing I've seen people mention is that Sandhagen, as we know, has a really good flying knee, which is one of the most famous knockouts of all time, I think, with his flying knee. And people say that Merab, being such a short guy going for the takedowns all the time,
that's true.
That if Sandhagen times that, but I mean,
that would be really funny though.
It would be, yeah. But I mean, he fought Umar.
Merab's 13 fight win streak gets broken by Sandhagen's flying knee.
The oldest trick in the book.
Yeah,
but, I mean, but to be honest, Sandhagen fought Umar, who's a heavy wrestler, and he didn't get a knockout flying knee there. So I mean, is he going to do it against a better fighter, in most people's opinion, in Merab? Probably not, right? I mean, so that's probably going to be next. Merab looks like he wants to be really active. I wouldn't be surprised if we see it maybe in September or October, November, somewhere this year. And that would be crazy. 3 title defenses in the same year would be crazy. But that's what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But other than that, I mean, assuming that's next, maybe we shouldn't do this, but what's next after that? Because I think all of us would agree, not in case of anything other happens, but he's gonna win that, right?
Yeah, I think he wins versus Sandhagen comfortably, and as you said, Sandhagen just pulls out something completely random. Merab really messes up.
Yeah,
and he gets finished by a flying knee, which
or in case he trolls a bit like he's done. But I mean, he's trolled against Umar, he's trolled against O'Malley, and it's worked.
I think he respects Sandhagen though, because the way he called him out also after the fight, he like said, Sandhagen, bro, it's your time. Like,
they talked backstage, and
it seemed really friendly. It didn't at all. Like, I think it's gonna be a bit like he isn't gonna go for the finish. I think against Sandhagen even maybe. I think it's gonna be like like another one of these maybe 5-round sort of.
Just gonna grind him down. 5 rounds.
Pressure fight,
break
but
him.
it isn't gonna be like antagonistic or toxic or anything.
I can't see that.
I think it's just gonna be like a boring fight. Even I couldn't see it being just simply because Sandhagen, he has a good he has good qualities to counter Merab, but just he doesn't have the physical edge at all at this point anymore. And Merab still has it. So I honestly think that it might be sort of almost a boring fight, both being a bit like cautious. Merab is controlling the octagon, doing what he does, shooting for some takedowns, maybe messes up a little bit, but recovers.
Not going to be an issue though, I think.
Yeah.
And you have to put this as a co-main, right? If this is a main event of a pay-per-view, not many people are going to be that interested in it. I think it's just going to be another name for Merab to add to his resume.
Yeah.
And obviously, looking back at his legacy, it's going to be a good win because Sandhagen is one of the greatest bantamweights in the recent years, at least. But not something we're going to be too interested in. I've seen people talk about the possibility of him moving up to featherweight because it's a 10-pound increase.
Merab?
Yeah, Merab.
Yeah.
But he himself said that he doesn't want to, and that he doesn't want to face Volk, which I respect.
Yeah.
And the respect Merab obviously has for Volk. And I don't think either that Merab would gain that much of an advantage gaining muscle. I mean, someone like Sean O'Malley, if he put on 10 pounds of muscle, it would be a lot better. But Merab, he's pretty much maxed out, right?
Yeah, I think so as well. Yeah. And I think that the main reason why he's dominating bantamweight division like he is right now is simply because he has the physical edge over basically any fighter in there. There's no one who like is as muscular as he is, as like the level of energy. Like there's no one similar to him in that division. So
So, and given the fact that it's not looking to move up, I mean, is he just going to dominate it for the next few years?
I think until it stops. I really think that. I don't think there's anyone, unless, let's say, O'Malley picks up 2 wins or something in the meantime, maybe in a year's time, more than a year's time. That's...
Maybe the only thing I could see is if Umar gets 1 or 2 wins and improves, because he's pretty young, right? And we all know his coach, Khabib, gonna be working, putting him through hell in camp.
Yeah.
And he's gonna get better and better. I think Umar with a spite coming back for a rematch against Merab will be a pretty close fight, I would imagine. Maybe if he edges that one out, we could see Umar beating him, possibly. But
the problem with Merab is I just see it as like either he really needs to be super old and like finish like super low on energy levels to not be able to keep up his game, like Merab, like not be able to keep up his takedowns, his pressure, everything like that. But otherwise, I just see it as long as it is on paper a close fight. So we analyze the fight now versus O'Malley, a close fight on paper, and then he just turns it around in like round 3. No one can keep up with his pressure, and it looks as if it's a dominating win, you know.
Yeah.
So, and the same with the Umar fight, like that was really impressive as well. The way he managed to like outcompete physically a much younger opponent.
Yeah. As someone like Umar, we saw in the videos building up to that fight from camp with Khabib, and what kind of training he was doing. It's so tough, the training that that team are doing, and it still wasn't enough to beat Merab. Which, I mean, Umar going into the fight was a favorite, but like you said, Merab outworked him, grinded him down, and ultimately beat him pretty soundly. And I think that's what we can expect from him going forward.
Yeah, I just think that if he's going to lose, I think he needs to face a fighter who both like counters his energy and his pressure, but also is has the physical edge or is themselves levels above him. Yeah, because no one is able to keep up with him. That's just what I feel. So.
And that's interesting at this stage. I mean, it's already the UFC bantamweight GOAT, right? And we have to be precise where we say that the UFC bantamweight GOAT, not the bantamweight GOAT, because we all know Demetrius Johnson competed at bantamweight in one, and we don't want to be mentioning him around here. But I mean, pretty soon we're gonna have to call in Mighty Mouse to beat Merab, I think, because there's no one else out there really.
No, there's no one who can take him down. So
no, but like we established, Merab is the GOAT and now moves up. Is he second now in the pound for pound rankings? I think.
Yeah. He's second now in the pound-for-pound rankings, and I think it's warranted. I think that people are forgetting if there is anyone who would say something against this, I think that people are forgetting the quality of opponents and simply how active he is.
Yeah.
Which I think is a really important thing for the pound-for-pound ranking. So let's say, for example, he jumped over Ilya Topuria in the rankings, and I mean, Topuria, he had a really impressive win versus Holloway, but that was more than 6 months ago.
Yeah, it was October last year.
Yeah, he hasn't fought since then, and he's gonna fight this month. At the end of the month, he's gonna fight versus Oliveira. Yeah. If he wins that in an impressive manner, he probably jumps up to second. I don't know. And the same with Islam. Islam is already pound-for-pound number 1, but we'll see. Jones versus Aspinall eventually, if that ever happens.
If Jones ever fights again.
If he ever chooses to face Aspinall.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I think it's warranted simply because of Merab's activity.
And we, like I said,
so often.
Yeah,
and so dominant.
We haven't seen anyone really other champion be that active. I mean, if someone like Duplessis, who is pretty active, if he goes out and wins against Hansat, I think there's a big argument to put Duplessis as the second or third ranked
guy. Second or third, something like that.
Or if Tom Aspinall were to knock out John Jones, which I believe he would. I mean, we have to put him up there. Or when Ankalaev or Pereira does the rematch, whoever wins that one's going to be pretty high. Yeah. But the point is, like you mentioned with Ilya there, is they aren't doing that. No. I mean, we're talking ifs here, but there's one guy who isn't talking ifs, and it's Merab. Yeah. He's going out and getting it done. Yeah. And I'm so glad that they reward him by giving him the spot. Because, like we know, in the lower weight classes, it's difficult to climb and get the same respect and attention as the heavier weight classes. I mean, look only at Pantoja. He's one of the absolutely best flyweights ever.
Dominating his divisions completely.
Yeah, and what's he in the ranking? He's not top 3 at least.
No.
I think it's like 5 or 6 or something.
I think he's ranked below... No, I think he's ranked below Pereira even though
Yeah,
Pereira
exactly.
And
So,
he's not even the champion. So
No,
that's
I mean,
insane,
yeah,
I think.
so that says everything, and how impressive it is for Merab to be ranked at number 2 there.
So, moving on to the rest of the card, what did we think of the co-main event in Juliana Pena, reigning champion, versus Kayla Harrison?
Yeah, I mean, previous reigning champion, we have to be saying, because it's the new reigning champion, which most of us expected. I mean, she was a
We
minus...
predicted that?
Yeah, and not a too difficult fight to predict, but Kayla Harrison getting the submission as we predicted. Pretty dominant, we have to say. She was minus 700 favorite coming in, and it just showed why, didn't it?
Yeah, Juliana was fighting on the back foot the entire fight. Kayla was just dominant, as you said, both physically and technically, I think.
And like we said before the fight in our preview, I mean, they don't look like they compete in the same sport just physically. Kayla Harrison is a beast, and Juliana Pena looks like a regular person, more or less. So I don't think we can be that that surprised that Kayla Harrison went out and just took this belt.
Yeah, no, I don't think so at all. I think it was, like we said, we predicted this to be a pretty easy win for Kayla Harrison. I think we even predicted it to be like a round 2 finish.
Submission, I think we said so.
I think we predicted it, so we almost...
At least we got this one right.
Yeah, we got this one completely right, I think so. So yeah, but what do you think is next for Kayla Harrison?
I think it has to be Amanda Nunes, given the fact that she went into the octagon after the fight. And I mean, she is the legend of the division in the women's bantamweight. And most people would consider her the GOAT of that division, I think. Yeah. I mean, the only thing there is like, she did retire, right? She did retire as the reigning champion. How much does she have left in the tank? I mean, it's not always when a previous champion returns that they are on their best, so to speak. But something I don't know if everyone knows, but Kayla Harrison is obviously with the American Top Team, the famous team with Bo Nickel, Masvidal, Dustin Poirier, etc. So many good fighters, right? Yeah. Which is the previous team of Amanda Nunes.
Oh.
But she left them a couple of years ago and created her own gym and her own team.
So you think that Kayla might have like a sort of intelligence advantage over...
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And a strategic advantage.
Yeah, strategic, I meant.
With knowing her coach, Kayla's, that was the previous coach of Amanda during the best part of her career, right? And that's going to be even more of an advantage. Not only that, but Kayla is also, like we said, the reigning champion. People say that a fighter gets about, I think Joe Rogan usually says, a fighter gets like 20% better when they get the belt. Yeah. And that confidence
more
that they fight with. Yeah. And just looking at Kayla Harrison, as we said before this fight, I mean, sure, Amanda Nunes is a step up compared to Juliana Pena, but Kayla is a beast, and I think she's going to take that one, honestly, and that advantage as well. And with the trainer there, and I know a lot of people have blamed Amanda Nunes for having a lot of yes men in her new corner and new gym that she trains with, and we would probably all agree that that's in most cases not a good thing to have a lot of people just hyping you up without giving you any constructive criticism.
Yeah. No pushback.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, you have to have pushback and critical feedback. At this level, you can't have only a lot of yes men unless you're the best. But even looking at someone like an Islam Makhachev, he has Khabib, right? Driving them on all the time to get better, and that's why he keeps getting better. If he had a lot of people just saying, "Oh, you're so good, oh, you don't need to improve on anything," I don't think that's going to be a winning concept. So, but that's next, and it has to. We have to say that it's a huge fight, right? Kayla Harrison versus.
That's a really, I think, entertaining fight it will be, and I think it will be close. But I would also if we are doing a super early prediction right now, just based on what you said, that it's the same team, the former coach of Amanda Nunes, I think that Kayla has the advantage there.
Yeah,
I think so.
But a big fight, right?
A really big fight. Maybe one of the biggest women's UFC fights, I think,
definitely.
in a long time.
Because, like we said, Amanda Nunes is probably the GOAT, and Kayla Harrison is the most scary looking champion.
The reigning champ right now.
Yeah, and it's also difference between, like I said, Juliana Pena was a reigning champ, but I don't think anyone really looked at her that way. But Kayla Harrison is a problem for everyone, and a different beast to anyone we have ever seen in the women's bantamweight division.
You think she will be dominant in this women's bantamweight division for years to come if she beats Amanda Nunes?
I really think so.
Yeah.
I don't see, looking at the rankings, I don't really see anyone beating her, to be honest. Just with her presence and her physicality. And so Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes, looking forward to that one. A super fight, definitely, but we both agree that Kayla Harrison probably should be going into that one as a favorite.
Yeah, super early prediction, but still.
Yeah, we'll see.
Right.
Alright, moving on to the next one down the card. It was the matchup between Kelvin Gastelum and Joey Pfeiffer. What did you make of this one?
Yeah, classic middleweight bout. Two big guys just throwing punches. And sadly, mostly Kelvin Gastelum, as expected, taking them. Yeah. And Joe Pfeiffer being the one throwing them. So,
he took a lot of damage.
Yeah,
right.
It was as expected, I think. We predicted Joe Pfeiffer to win by knockout, I think. We didn't get the finish. And that speaks to Kelvin's ability to withstand shots, his just general tankiness. Yeah. Because it took a lot of punches this fight, in particular. But it was as expected. We predicted Pfeiffer to win, and he won.
Yeah, dominant from Pfeiffer, we have to say. Some good combinations, and I think if he fought someone else than Kelvin Gastelum in the rankings, not the top guys, but someone lower ranked, it would have been a finish, in my opinion. But Kelvin Gastelum, like you said, he's a tank. He's big. He has a lot of weight for the division, like we said previously. He should probably be competing in a lighter division, like the welterweight maybe. Yeah. And having that extra body weight, I think, gives him a bit of a better chin.
But it takes away from his mobility. Yeah. He can't really advance as fast, be as explosive as he needs to be.
Definitely.
Boxing exchanges.
If you put Kelvin Gastelum picture by picture, and you show him against a Duplessis or a Hamzat, you wouldn't think that they're competing in the same division. No. So, like I said, it doesn't favor him in terms of winning fights. It means he can survive, like he did now, but realistically, looking at the rankings, who does he beat? I'm not really sure, to be honest.
No.
But Pfeiffer, good performance by him, dominant. He's only like 28 years old, I think.
He has promise. He has a couple or more than a couple years left in the middleweight division. He can keep advancing there, up the rankings maybe.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, it was a good performance. Like we said, if it was someone else, I think he might have very probably got a finish there. Yeah. So, what do you think would be next for Pfeiffer?
I think that someone ranked maybe 8th or above. Or no, wait, Pfeiffer isn't even ranked, I believe.
No, he isn't ranked. No.
Yeah, so his next fight cannot be against someone. I think that both Pfeiffer and Gastelum, they're like this old type of fighters. So you're thinking, when you see the names, you're thinking that they're already like top 12 or something in the middleweight division. But then randomly they're on and they were in the main card itself. So it was very...
Yeah, given that people like Patchy Mix and Mario Batista were below them, you would assume that they would be ranked, but they're not.
They would be ranked with the main fighters in the middleweight division. But no, since neither Pfeiffer or Gastelum were ranked, that means that Pfeiffer next has to go up against someone like lower ranked in the middleweight. So let's say Kopilov, maybe there, or Magomedov.
Yeah, someone like that. Yeah. Should be an interesting bout, and I think he has good chances of beating someone in the lower parts of the rankings in the middleweight division, given how good he looked. And speaking of Mario Batista and Patchy Mix, that's the next fight on the card. Mario Batista coming out with the win here. What did you make of his performance?
Yeah, I thought it was a good performance on Batista. Threw some really good kicks, just a general good mix of attacks, punches, kicks, also some wrestling in there. And Patchy Mix, if I'm going to be completely honest, it was his UFC debut, right?
Yeah.
And he looked nervous. He didn't look ready. He did not look ready at all to be on the main card of a UFC main event. If anything, it should have been on a fight night, or it should have been on a prelim to a main event. It should not have been on the main card or against a experienced fighter like Batista, who's already, I think, on a win streak of...
Yeah, beat Aldo. And I mean, he was ranked at number 10, so he's a good guy for the division.
No, it's not at all a bad or an easy matchup. It's not at all easy matchup for Patchy Mix to go up against someone like Batista, who's already... I think he has the physical advantage, maybe, Batista. He's taller.
Not sure about the height, but I mean...
Reach, something like that.
Yeah, it looked like it at least in the fight.
In the fight, but maybe that was just because he was more... Yeah, he was more active, he was more... much more physically active and just throwing kicks, punches, everything, and Patchy Mix
didn't look like he wanted to be there.
No, he didn't look like a UFC fighter.
No, so surprising. And when you compare someone else coming over from another organization like Michael Chandler, for instance, he wanted to come in and be the big league. He wanted to steal the show, so to speak. And Patchy Mix just didn't. And we picked him before the fight, and most people did because of his record and how good he has looked in Bellator
record, so
yeah, precisely. But I don't think it was his capability as a fighter really that cost him this win. It was surely he choked under pressure.
Yeah, the mental aspect. I think you saw it in the round 1. He lost the fight already there. He lost the mental advantage. Yeah. Batista just didn't give him breathing room. He just kept throwing his attacks, and Patchy Mix couldn't meet them. He wasn't ready. He wasn't ready for this fight. I think he should have got like everyone else who's new in the UFC almost. Like you get a prelim. You don't go in immediately on the main card. That's sort of
against a number 10 ranked guy. I mean, sure, he looked good, and I think if Patchy Mix performed to the level we thought he was gonna win this fight, but he just didn't. So, like you said, probably the pressure there. He felt being on the main card of a pay-per-view, that's big, right?
Yeah.
And compared, to be honest, Bellator doesn't get the same amount of views or crowd as the UFC. So a bit struck by the occasion, probably, we have to say. And but a big win for Mario Batista, who's now beaten Jose Aldo and Patchy Mix. And he was scheduled before this one to face Marlon Vera, but he pulled out, and that's the reason why he actually fought Patchy Mix now.
Marlon Vera pulled out. Right?
Yeah, exactly, against Batista. But is that a matchup you would be interested in seeing, Batista versus Vera?
Yeah, I think it's a reasonable matchup to expect. I don't think that Batista is like, although he showed a good level during this fight, I don't think that he is like this type of fighter that will be level 5, that will be top 5 or be able to compete against any of those guys in the bantamweight division.
No.
But I think that Marlon Vera is a good matchup for him. I think that it's a good fight for everyone to see. It's a good fight also to see his level, really. Is this new Batista, is he going to keep climbing? Is this his ceiling or not?
Yeah.
And it will be interesting, but I don't think that he's going to end up just getting a title shot in 2 fights. I don't think that's going to happen. No. I think he's going to find his ceiling somewhere around Marlon Vera, maybe another fighter above him.
Yeah, around the 5, 6, 7
it's going to end
range.
up somewhere around there, I would think. I think, like, as you said earlier, that I think that this fight had more to do with Patchy Mix not really being ready than Mario Batista being an amazing fighter, which I think he's a good fighter. He's a good fighter for the bantamweight division, but he's not someone who's going to go out there and give Merab a tough fight. That's not going to happen.
Definitely not.
It's not that type of
He's going to have to come on leaps and bounds for that to happen.
Yeah.
But like you said, if he faces a Vera, and if he wins that one dominantly, I mean, Vera, I think, is ranked at number 7, then he could take a 6-7 spot there in the rankings and maybe get a fight with someone like a Jan or someone like that and work his way. But I think, like you said, he's going to come unstuck at some point
I think
before that.
Against Jan, I think that would be his ceiling. I think that he fights Jan, I think he loses.
Yeah.
I think that's...
Or anyone like that.
Yeah.
Like an Umar, someone like that.
Yeah.
He's going to come unstuck. All right.
So, moving on to the next one. We have Vincente Luque against Kevin Holland. And Kevin Holland won this through a submission in round 2, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Two.
As you predicted. I don't know if there's submission,
actually,
but you predicted Kevin Holland at least.
But it's mostly based on... What did you think of the fight, by the way?
I mean, Kevin Holland, it's what you get. It's like rolling a dice.
Yeah.
And it can be anything. It can be an embarrassing finish. It can be a knockout win. It can be a submission. It can be a boring points decision. You don't know. He doesn't really have a style, does he?
No, he just has his long arms and long legs and just throws, and sometimes it works, like sometimes it doesn't. I think he has improved his ground game. Yeah. He got in a couple of positions and managed to get out of them. Almost a submission, I think, by Luke. Or no, maybe that was against, I think, his fight of the night performance against
Gunnar Nelson.
Yeah. There he really showed some improved ground game. And I think he showed this further during this fight when he got the submission.
Yeah,
but
totally.
I think that otherwise, as you said, he doesn't really have a style. It's sort of just... I mean, the impression that I've been getting from him is that he just goes out and he sort of just does the fighting. He doesn't really, he doesn't really think about it. It's not like he really like, okay, this guy is gonna give me this. This guy is gonna counter me in this way.
No,
it's more like he just does what he does, and I think that he just in general has improved his ground game since he got manhandled completely by Reiner the Ridder, who is a really good fighter by himself. But I think that submission sort of gave him a bit of a wake up call in the ground game. That submission, because since then he has showed really improved ground game, and I think that this fight showed that, as you said, Kevin Holland, either you flip a coin when he fights, and it's the reason why I predicted him. I just felt that after the Gunnar Nelson fight, I don't know, I just feel like when he has got the confidence in him, when you just have that feeling sometimes with him, I just feel like you either have that feeling that he's gonna win or he's not gonna win.
Yeah.
And I just had that feeling before this fight. He's gonna win somehow. I don't know if he wins the next fight, but what do you think? By the way, talking about the next fight, what do you think is next for him?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. Like we all see, he called out Colby Chaos Covington.
Yeah.
And that's an intriguing matchup, right? Two guys who talk a lot and don't always back it up with the fighting, but I think the build-up would be a lot better than the fight, to be honest. But given the call-out, and I think Colby Covington's ego is gonna make him take that fight, because there's a lot of holes in Kevin Holland's game. I know he just got a win here, and a pretty good one at that, but I mean, even us can see the holes. And I mean, a guy like Colby Covington, who has been in the sport so long and has fought the likes of Kamaru Usman, Masvidal, Leon Edwards, he will look at Kevin Holland and say I eat that for breakfast. You know what I mean? So I think that's a matchup to make, because Covington is coming off a loss to Buckley, right? Pretty devastating that. I know he thought that the stoppage was poor by the referee.
He was dominated. If I'm being completely honest, watching that fight, he was dominated for 3 rounds.
Didn't look like he was going to win for a second in that fight.
No.
And that's against, given Buckley all of his credit, sure, but I mean, Buckley is hardly the champion. He's a good contender.
Yeah.
And
up and coming.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not like he got dominated by Bilal Muhammad or someone who's the top. So Colby is on the way down. We have to say that his performance against Leon Edwards was really bad. Yeah. He talked so much before that fight and went out completely flat. Didn't look like he wanted the fight. But for this one, if he takes this fight, I think it's going to be pretty entertaining. You never know with these two guys, but do you think that's the matchup to make?
Yeah, I think so as well. I think that's, as you said, it's... I think they're both going to go into it thinking that Kevin Holland is going to go into it thinking, oh, this guy lost against Buckley. I think that Kevin Holland, it was way back, but back in 2020, when Buckley was new, Kevin Holland fought Buckley and won against him. Yeah. So I think that he's going to go into that thinking, okay, so this guy got beat by the guy that I beat. Although that was a long way ago, but I think that Kevin Holland is going to go into that fight and is going to think, yeah, I can take this guy Covington. He's old now. He's not the same guy he was before. I'm new now. I have this win streak behind me, even though I lost a couple of fights ago. So I think that Holland goes into that with confidence, but I also think that Covington does. I don't think that Covington is gonna look at Holland, as you said. He's not gonna look at him and think this guy's scary or something. He's gonna see the holes in his game and he's gonna take that fight. And I think that fight is super hard to predict, if I'm being honest. I think that it can be super entertaining. I think that, I don't know, Covington has definitely the wrestling advantage.
Yeah.
He also probably has the striking advantage, but at the same time, if Holland shows up, his reach is incredible, and just the way that he sometimes evades strikes and then throws them back.
Yeah.
And with the improved ground game he has showed in his latest fights, I don't think that he's going to be submitted in that kind of fights. I mean, Covington doesn't...
Holland?
Holland. I don't think... I mean, Covington doesn't even really do that anymore.
No,
he's not really even a wrestler that much anymore in the UFC.
I think that's the age also, because, I mean, in his prime he was a very good wrestler.
Yeah.
But that takes its toll on your body, and I just don't know
if
if
it's... more of a striker now, almost.
Yeah,
Covington.
because that's the easiest thing to do, right?
Yeah.
Striking is a lot easier than wrestling on the body and on your cardio as well. Yeah. So, like you said, very different matchup and difficult to call.
I think we'd have to predict that right before that fight. I think you have to have a bit more time to think about it. We have to look at the training camp, what's happened. Yeah. We have to look at quotes before that fight. I think it's an interesting fight, but I think that it's hard to predict right now, just based on...
like we said, based on Kevin Holland and the fact that you always, like you said, it's a coin flip, right?
Yeah.
Either he shows up looking great or he doesn't show up at all. And a bit similar with Colby. I think Colby always talks a lot of trash before his fights, and against Leon Edwards he certainly did. Most people would say he crossed the line with the things he said about his father, etc.
Yeah, that's stupid stuff.
Yeah, totally unnecessary. But it built up the fight and it sold the fight, and then he comes into it and barely throws a punch. And you're like, okay, so all this talk and not walking the walk here.
Yeah.
And I think this could be much the same. But like you said, in the build-up, I think it's going to be big conclusions to draw there. Because Colby always has on his boat with a lot of girls, and he plays poker, and he does all of these different things that has nothing to do with fighting. I think we need to see a bit more of a locked-in approach from Colby if we're going to have any chance of picking him to win even against Kevin Holland at this point.
I think, as we said, I think that you have to look a bit more close to that fight. You have to see what goes on in the training camp, what does each fighter do before, maybe on social media, like what do they put out, are they training, or are they, as you said, or they playing poker, hanging out with girls. Like it's going to be interesting to see right before that matchup, if we get that matchup. Nothing is confirmed yet, but
it makes sense.
It makes sense.
They're similar in the rankings. Yeah. They both talk a lot. It would sell. You could put that like as a feature fight or a fight on a pay-per-view, and most people would be interested in seeing that one, I think. And the winner would get like a 7-8 ranked spot in the welterweight division, and
neither of them would decline, really. There's no reason for neither of them to decline that fight, I believe.
No, exactly. So surely that's the fight to make next for them.
I think so.
But overall, we have to say it was a entertaining card.
Yeah, entertaining card.
UFC 316.
Good fights, some more so than others, but a couple of finishes. That's good.
And 2 really big performances by the bantamweight champions, Merab and Kayla Harrison.
Yeah. Also, coming up this Saturday, we have the fight night between Kamaru Usman and Joaquin Buckley. So, what do we think about this one?
Yeah, as we put the UFC 316 behind us, we look forward to this one. Kamaru Usman, a veteran, a legend of the game, fighting a top-tier contender of Joaquin Buckley. And as much as I'm a big fan of Usman, and some people would argue he's the welterweight GOAT, he's certainly top 2 or 3. I think he's too old and worn out, to be honest. I think after the last after his fight against Hamzat, I mean, I thought he looked good personally. Yeah. Some people argue...
But that was more than a year ago also.
Yeah, it was a long time ago. Yeah. But he looked good, even though he lost. But after the fight, it's interesting. He looked broken mentally. He was like, he looked into the camera with dead behind the eyes and said like, oh, I just don't know if I have it anymore. And when you see Kamaru Usman like that, I don't think I can pick him, even though he's a great fighter. What do you think?
No, I agree. I think that Joaquin Buckley he's not a completely new fighter in the UFC, but he's incredibly physical. He has a lot of explosiveness, a lot of power. He's a striker, a boxer, primarily. He might not have the wrestling advantage, but this will not be a wrestling match, I believe. And I think that last time out, Usman, he did really well against Khamzat, but that also has to do with that Khamzat's main weapon or only weapon really of attack is his wrestling, to be honest. And that's also Usman's main strength.
Yeah.
So I think that their qualities sort of cancelled each other out, and it was a almost sort of controversial win for Khamzat, right?
Yeah, very close.
Yeah, it was very close. But I think that this will be a different prospect. Usman is 1 year older, 1 year more without activity, coming off 3 losses, even though, his losses against Leon Edwards also weren't super convincing against him.
No.
At least the first one. He did.
I mean, the first one he did win until he got flatline KO'd.
Yeah.
And the effect that something like that has on a fighter is hard to say, really. I mean, there's guys like Volkanovski who got flatline KO'd by Topuria and Makachev and comes back and wins the belt, looking good. But in most cases, I think it's not doing any favors, really.
Yeah, and also those guys didn't go on a free fight loss streak.
No.
Like Usman has done now. He's gone on a 3 fight loss streak. I think that he's been inactive more than a year.
Yeah.
I just think that Joaquin Buckley, he has a 6-7 win streak. Right now he has 15 wins by knockout, which is incredible.
Yeah.
I just think that he has the power, he has the hungriness. He wants to climb this welterweight, which is already stacked, this welterweight division, but he wants to climb this division, and I almost think that Usman is throwing himself to the wolves sort of right now.
Yeah.
I think that he should not really have taken this fight against this type of fighter. He should have taken it more against similarly older champion like him, like Covington, maybe.
Yeah, they
Something
fought
like that.
twice already, so... Yeah. But yeah, I totally agree with the fact that it's a bold move from Usman. We have to respect him for it.
Yeah,
but like you said, he's 38 now. His knees have been gone for so long.
Yeah.
Other injuries are lagging. He says that his body hurts every day, pretty much. So, credit to him, like we said, for taking this one. But we have to pick Buckley, at least I do. I can't really see Usman taking this one.
I think so as well. I think that although Usman has only been knocked out once in his entire career in the UFC, as far as I know, I think that Buckley will KO him. If I'm going to be completely honest, I just think that based on what we know right now, I just think that Buckley has too much power, too much explosiveness, too much hunger for this fight, and I think that he wants to prove himself. And I think that Usman will not be able to keep up with it for 5 rounds. I think it's a 5-rounder, right?
Yeah, of course, it's a main event.
It's a main event, so it's a 5-rounder. So.
But that's a big point that you made there, because if they were the same age, I would every day pick Usman.
Yeah, absolutely.
But
3 years ago, Usman easily...
smokes him.
It smokes him, yeah.
But like you said, the biggest factor here, in my opinion at least, is the hunger for Joaquin Buckley. In every interview you see him, he has this anger behind his eyes.
Yeah.
And that tone in his voice that he wants to achieve greatness.
Yeah.
And you can tell by everything that he works so hard towards it. And Kamaru Usman, he's a great man, but he has to be sitting at the top of the hill, looking back at the fights he's had. He can't be that hungry anymore. No. And even if he is, has he got the physicality to back it up against... I mean, like you said, like someone older, completely, I would pick Usman every single day. But against a young and hungry and dangerous opponent like Buckley, I mean, we've seen the way Buckley finishes his opponent. It's not nice.
No.
Who went in against another veteran of the sport, Colby Covington, and demolished him.
Yeah.
So is Usman going to be any different? I mean, Usman's better, but I also think he's older.
Yeah.
And a bit more worn out than Colby. So
and it's not. I don't think that right now he has a striking level, maybe even of Covington. I mean, Covington Covington started out as a wrestler, then sort of transitioned a little bit in the latest year to a striker almost.
Yeah.
And I think that Usman, he against Hamzat, I don't think that. I mean, he showcased his wrestling, his takedown defense.
Yeah.
Mostly, and I think that. I don't know. Hamzat is not really something to write home about on the feet in terms of his striking. So I don't really know about Usman's striking. Usman hasn't faced anyone really since Leon Edwards that has that level of striking. And I just think that Buckley, I mean, he's a power finisher. I mean,
he's a tough guy. Yeah. So I don't believe
the way that he moves. He moves like a boxer. He doesn't really move like a kickboxer even or a jiu-jitsu guy. Like he is a boxer primarily, and I just don't think that Usman has that level of. I even physically, I just think that Usman doesn't position himself. He positions himself for the takedown more than maybe for the boxing exchange. So
and I don't believe Usman can survive 5 rounds on the feet against Buckley, and can he manage 5 rounds wrestling against Buckley?
I mean, can even take him down. I think that, if you look at the physical profile, I don't know if Buckley is shorter. I think he might be even shorter than Usman, but that's the problem. Buckley is he's incredibly physical. I don't think that Usman can take him down. Even if he takes him down, I don't think he's going to be able to hold him down. I think that... I mean, I don't think that Buckley takes Usman down, but I don't think either that Usman maybe might be able to... I mean...
Then Buckley's going to try and keep the range.
Yeah, he's going to try to keep the fight on the feet, and that's what I think. I think that Buckley is going to be able to do that. I don't think that he's going to allow Usman to dominate him on the ground or anything like that. I think he's... Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point there, because as much as Usman is a great wrestler, we all know that it's the thing of Buckley knows that if we know it, you can bet your damn house that Buckley and his coaches know it.
Yeah.
And like you said, he's a really good level boxer to be in the UFC, because most guys are like Usman or Covington, wrestlers on some other combat sports background, but not many boxing guys. And when a guy like Buckley comes in and moves like a professional boxer, it's very hard for a guy like Usman to close that.
Yeah, to counter that.
Yeah, and like we come back to here, a lot of times I feel like Usman is prime, don't get us wrong. Of course, he beats probably anyone in the welterweight division except George St. Pierre, maybe. But he's 38, he's very injured, he's very worn out, and a bit mentally off it. I haven't, in the interviews and anything, seen him talk like he got that hunger.
I mean, he talked in one interview I saw, but it was almost... I don't want to say, because of course we respect Usman a lot.
Yeah,
I don't want to say it, but I think that this was almost delusional, sort of, trying to convince himself. He was talking about wanting to have a fight for the title after this one, if he wins against Buckley, and then after that, moving up to middleweight and having a title fight and winning the title against Dricus Duplessis. And I don't think that at this age, at this point in time, I think that that's not something that you even say if you are convinced. I mean, that's not something that Usman, I think, even said in his prime, that he was just randomly gonna do. I mean, he wasn't planning 3 fights ahead in his press conference.
No, and do something like that.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's such a random thing to say, and it's one of those things, when a fighter says that, at least an old fighter, it's almost like he's trying to convince himself, I still got this plan.
Yeah, and I think it's an example of him trying to sell this fight.
Yeah. Exactly.
And show that it has some ambition.
Yeah, but it's not a retirement fight. He doesn't want people to think that it's a retirement fight.
He doesn't want them to think that, but I think when he gets flatline KO'd by Buckley, I think it's gonna be his retirement fight, to be honest. But good point, he has said that in the build-up, but it also doesn't fill me with confidence on Usman's part, because if he said something like, I'm gonna win this with my experience and my wrestling, and then I'm gonna fight like a number 1 or 2 ranked contender like a Belal Muhammad or a Shavkat or someone like that, and then I'm gonna go for the title. I could believe him in the fact that he thinks that, not that I think he's gonna accomplish that, but that's just delusional, to be honest. As much as you said, we respect Usman a lot, right? One of the GOATs of the sport, definitely of his division, but I mean, just to climb the welterweight division right now, with it being so stacked, is impossible, really, for a guy like Usman and his age.
38 years old.
Yeah, and with his injuries and everything like that. And to fight a guy like Duplessis, I could put my house on Duplessis winning that one. So that doesn't fill me with confidence either, to be honest.
So we are in agreement then about both predicting Joaquin Buckley to win this probably by knockout.
Yeah, I would have to think so, don't you? Being the fact that it's 5 rounds.
Yeah.
What would your official prediction be if you had to pick something here?
Yeah, I would predict Buckley by knockout somewhere around. I don't think that he gets in first round, second round. I don't think it's gonna be super early, but I think third round. Third round knockout. I think might be likely here, or fourth round. I mean, Usman does.
Third or fourth.
Yeah. It depends a little bit about how Usman has kept up while being inactive in his training. If he has somehow kept up his mobility in fights, if he's not gonna. I mean, if Usman goes in there and feels completely like, what am I doing here now again? It's more than a year of being inactive.
Yeah.
And let's say he's completely immobile. He can't really move around that much. He can't really evade Buckley. Then I think that Buckley can clean up in first round. But I think that Usman is still gonna be able to like move around. He's still slick, with his moves. He's mobile on the feet. So I would say like round 3, round 4. Round 3 probably.
Yeah, a KO.
Yeah, that's the most likely, at least.
Yeah, I would have to pick so as well.
Yeah.
I can't really see this one going to points because I think Buckley in 5 rounds, given the form he's in, he's gonna finish even someone as tough as Kamaru is. But I mean, sure, it was a great kick by Leon Edwards, but Leon Edwards isn't a knockout artist, and he clipped him and put him out cold, and that's one of his most recent fights. And since then, he hasn't fought. Looking at Usman's resume, has he fought any more dangerous striker, anyone more dangerous, than Buckley? I mean, he has some great names: Hamzat, Gilbert Burns, Masvidal, Covington.
Great wrestlers, but not really.
Or Edwards is a kickboxer.
Yeah, Edwards is the only one really.
But does he have that power? I'm not sure he does. He has the technique, which you saw when he got the knockout over Usman, but he's hardly the most powerful guy ever.
He's more of a pressure type of striker.
Yeah.
Right?
And someone like Buckley, I think Buckley's 5'10". He's not tall for the division, but he's strong. Yeah. He has the technique, like we've mentioned. He has very good boxing, very clean, very powerful. I think it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah.
Disaster.
50 knockouts in 25 professional fights. That's an incredible record. And in his UFC career, I think he's averaged like a knockout every other fight.
Yeah.
At
in
least
the UFC.
That's in the last 7, every other fight basically. Otherwise, it's been a unanimous decision. So I think he.
And most of them haven't been 5 rounds either.
No.
Because it's not main eventing, right?
No. So I think it's been 3 rounds or something. So.
Yeah, most of them. And if you give him 5, I can't see him.
Yeah.
I mean, is it a risk that he gasses out, do you think? Possibly? Buckley?
Oh, I haven't really thought too much about that, actually, if we will gas out or not. That might be a possibility. That's an interesting point, because Usman does do well in the later rounds.
Yeah, in his prime though. I mean,
in his prime, that's the thing. He's 30, so
will he gas out Buckley at 38?
And I think that Buckley also knows this. He knows that he will have a 5-round fight now. Probably he knows that he's fighting Kamaru Usman, who's basically almost never been knocked out. As you said, against Leon Edwards, but one time. Yeah. So he knows that more than likely, even if he's really confident in himself, he's really confident in his finishing ability, I think that he more than likely knows that he needs to prepare for 5 rounds at least of combat. And I think that, I don't think that Kamaru Usman at 38 is going to be able to prepare better than Joaquin Buckley in his absolute physical prime. So I think that, still, but even if it goes the length, it goes 5 rounds and it goes to a decision, I think Buckley, I actually think that even if it goes to a decision, I think it's almost even more likely that Buckley wins, just based on the pressure, just based on the amount of strikes he's going to be able to accumulate throughout those 5 rounds. So I think he wins either way. But I do think it's going to be by TKO, or at least KO.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you there. A TKO, I would say, probably round 4, somewhere like that.
Round 4, yeah.
If he gets it early, it's a hell of a statement, but I don't know if he will. I mean, Kamaru is an experienced guy, and I would say, around 3 or 4 for Buckley. That's a pretty decent prediction, and then it's onwards and upwards for him, right? After that.
What do you think is next for Buckley after, if he wins against...
If he wins this one, it's an interesting one. The welterweight division on a whole is an interesting one to analyze because it's so tough, as we all know. But I think there's been rumors about Ian Gary, who's another top contender. I think that's
like top 6 or something he is, or top 5.
Yeah, somewhere along those lines. I think that's a big step up for him. Maybe someone like a Sean Brady, another top contender.
Yeah.
I think he's ranked number 2 or 3 or something, Sean Brady. But I don't think Sean Brady will get the title shot next. So I think he's going to have to take another tough fight, given how tough the landscape of the welterweight division is. So I would say probably Gary or Sean Brady.
Yeah.
For either guy. Given the fact that Buckley wins, I would have to say that. Do you have any differing opinion, or?
No, I completely agree. I think that someone like Gary or Sean Brady, I think that, I don't know, Leon Edwards, he just lost against Sean Brady, so I think that I don't think that Buckley would want to take that fight. I think that he wants someone a bit more higher profile.
Yeah, that's
currently in the welterweight landscape. I think he wants someone to basically that has gone off a win, or at least is on the way up themselves. Because fighting Leon Edwards is just going to be another Usman. That's the reality as of right now. It's just going to be another Usman fight. It's going to be like, okay, so now I'm basically top 4, but nothing more.
Yeah.
Beating Brady though, or Gary, that's a real statement in the future of the not just right now, but in the future of the welterweight division. That's a real statement, beating either of those two. Yeah,
if he beats Usman now and fights either of those in the end of the year or beginning of last year, he's right up there as the best or second best contender, I think. That's not a given, of course. They're tough guys, but I think that's the trajectory of Buckley going forward, given the talent and the form he's in, right?
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I think that he has what he needs to be able to keep going upwards in the rankings of the welterweight division, even though it's a super stacked division. Welterweight division right now, very competitive. And it will be interesting to see what happens in the future in that division. Yeah.
And we'll see it after this Saturday, the main event of the fight night between Usman and Joaquin Buckley.
Yeah, a decider for the future of the welterweight division, maybe.
Yeah.
New contender arises, almost, in Buckley.
Yeah, definitely. It will be an interesting one, and we will be recapping that one in next week and see what's next for the welterweight division.
Yeah, see you next week.
Thank you guys for listening.
Yeah.
Like and subscribe.
Thank you. Goodbye.